and you didn't know that they just made this phone call and you make a different agreement or you propose it a different way. It just makes you look disconnected. So anything Google Suite is shareable, easy to do with a Gmail or Google address. So I'm really a big fan of the Google Suite, a suite of programs. But whatever you use, make sure you're doing it consistently, and a lot of it's just actually taking action. We may decide that, we may tell each other that, oh, I would do it except whatever the excuse is. At the end of the day, we all have a cell phone. You can pick up the cell phone and make the call, or you can send the email, or you can send the text. And I would say do all three. The phone call is, for a lot of people, the hardest. A lot of juniors I've found will build huge lists, and then nothing ever happens with them. They have great lists of all the ideal clients, but we never reach out to them. So whatever it is, chunk it down to less, and then actually take action to outbound to those people. When you want to get this package in front of the most amount of people, and you want to leverage AI, technology, however you want to say it, these are the platforms that I use most often that allow for the most dissemination of information. So MailChimp is a mailing program, very easy to use to mail out to a bunch of people. You can attach that package that you've created in PDF form, send it out to a bunch of people, and keep following up with them. CoStar has all the information. So all of our, if you're a real estate broker particularly if you're a real estate broker and you've done deals, that's the really important one. There's a lot of, I don't remember, we just went through this the other day with TREC. TREC, I think, has 400,000 licenses in Texas. Well, there's not 400,000 active brokers, and we're some of the most prolific brokers in Austin. So think about it, you want to be working with those that are doing deals on a consistent basis. I don't want to work with somebody that this is their first transaction. I don't want to do that personally, but I also don't want to work with somebody that is outside of my area, outside of my expertise, outside of my, I don't want to be emailing them about a multifamily if all they do is industrial. It's just irrelevant. It fills our email boxes full. I know Jim stepped out, but I was going to tell a very interesting story about him. Like 3 years ago, he called me. I don't think I'd ever met him. And he's like, hey, Zach, you do a lot of land in Taylor. And I said, yeah. He said, are you, I was gun happy, and I was like, so do you want to buy some? Are you ready to go? I know who you are. You're that CCIM guy that's everywhere. And he said, no, I don't have a need right now, but I'm recording all this stuff, and I make these marks in my CRM. I just want to know what kind of property you're working on, what kind of deals you do, so that next time there's something that comes up in Taylor, you're one of my first calls. And I'm not calling somebody who's never worked in Taylor. I have just a small amount of notes on each person. You can categorize that however you like in a Google Sheet, for example, but just write something down. And the more detailed you get, the better you can use AI, again, to dump all that in and say, who out of my contact database here that I just loaded up is the best person to call to buy land in Taylor? And hopefully he wrote that down. Yes, sir.
Well, are you ready for a few questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I want to jump in.
Sure.
You said this earlier. You said you're driving around and you're telling it about you.
Yes.
So I've noticed sometimes when I've asked a question, be it Grok or Claude,
yes,
it will say like hypothetically, how do I start a commercial real estate broker?
Yes.
And it'll give me a whole bunch of really interesting answers, but then it'll say, tell me more about your role or goals
sure,
for a more tailored response.
Sure.
So do you just say, hey, Claude, let me tell you what I'm all about?
The best way is
you just start talking?
The master prompt.
The
best way is the master prompt. Master prompt is fulfilling the roles. Yeah. It will say, I am Scott Hendricks, and I am a commercial real estate broker. You create the role for it, and then say, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to sell more real estate. What advice do you have for me? And it will.
Here's the baby boomer question.
Sure.
Where does that go?
That's a great question. That's what I was.
In your app? I mean, is some North Korean teenager, writing all this down so I can be turned or something?
Sure. And that's why it's so important, as I mentioned before lunch, that you pay for a private LLM. It's a learning language model, and all that means is it's your container. So I don't know where it stores that container, and yeah, if you write anything down, whether it's on the internet or not, somebody could steal your email, fair enough, right? But you just have to trust. If you want what it has, you have to give it something, and it holds that thing and makes that private if you pay it $20 a month. Will that go up over time? Probably, but for right now, it's $20 a month. Don't dump it onto the general internet, because if you do that, right, then the South Korean kid and everybody else can see. That's why I'm saying for this afternoon, if you're loading this stuff up, please don't load it if you don't have an account, a private account, because it's then...
It's going to be encrypted.
That's why JLL is going to win this battle. They have the most amount of knowledge of what all of these buildings are leasing for, because they did the leases, they did the sale. They can leverage all, but they don't show that to everybody. If they opened it up to everybody, they have no more competitive advantage. So keep yours inside of your container. And it'll be the same about personal stuff about you, Scott. You don't want your medical records or your finances or whatever. Don't be putting that up there, because it's just like creating a new web page. You don't want to do that. You want this in the container, and you want it to just reference back to you. It does become an echo chamber. At some point, Barry and I were talking about, if I look up who the best commercial real estate broker is in Austin, Texas, guess who it tells me that is? Me. I'm the number one, and then it's the top next 4 guys who've done the most deals in town. So it'll feed into your own ego, and you have to prompt it and get ahead of it and say...
That's why they made that movie about the guy who fell in love with the voice?
Yeah. Yeah. So it feeds into your ego until you tell it not to. If you say, hey, I know I'm not the best one, give me the next 5. Give me the 5 that are not me, whatever it is. So just recognize that it's feeding back into you. Unless you change it and tell it not to do that, it's going to think as you. It's creating a you. It's scary, I know, but
it's crazy.
Again, the more, your clients are like this too though, but this is why this matters. Your clients, when they see you advertising a broker open down in San Antonio tomorrow, and their last guy didn't do this, but they just were looking on LinkedIn and they saw your broker open at their property, or they saw your package that you're putting up on your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your Facebook or your TikTok, whatever platform. If you want to disseminate it across several platforms, there's something called a buffer, right? And one of the ones is Publer. I have an example here. There are many, but this is one where you say, here are my 10 profiles. Put this across all of them, and you can schedule that out every few hours or whatever amount. So you can do it all at one time, chunk it down, and then it looks like you're constantly on the internet. And that's where I was saying, using technology to make sure it looks like you're everywhere all the time. People will say, oh, I just saw you posted something, but you've just been standing here with me for the last half hour. So automate as much of it as you can, but recognize that once it's scheduled to go out, don't forget, things change, and you blast something out there that has changed, you don't want to look like an idiot. So just be conscientious of that. You don't want to get caught into that trap, essentially. Here's the thing. Inbound's great, right? Mark Roberge, who started HubSpot, will tell you that inbound marketing is the way to go. Basically, get your listings out there in front of as many people, wait till they call you. Or as my partner, his father, Mark Giesche's dad, used to say, just put a sign up. It'll be fine. That's all that's going to be required. That's just one element of it. But in today's market, my buyers are Russian, they're Chinese, they're sovereign wealth fund. Those guys aren't driving by my property looking for a sign. So it depends on what you're working on. If you're looking at a retail lease, maybe that's a little bit different. You put your sign out front, yeah, they're going to drive by that and like the location. If they're looking for a warehouse in an industrial area, I guarantee the buyers are not driving around down your street trying to find your sign. You need to be in their eyes. You need to be on their desk. You need to be printing up this marketing package and making it nice enough, like these handouts, that they won't throw it away. You don't want to get in their email, and many of us are on the CCIB list, a syndication list, and I get 100 of those a day, and I don't look at very many of them. But if somebody actually mailed me a package, and there's only so many buyers for a lot of things, If somebody mailed that to my office, I'm definitely going to look at it and I'm going to wonder, what is this guy? Why did he pick me out? And am I the right guy to buy this? So recognize that it's great to have that on the desk. And we used to tell this people all the time in the CRE Pro course, send it out to the right recipient. And chances are they put it on their desk and then somebody else walks into their office and they're like, oh, I've heard of this property, or are you looking at buying a warehouse? Let's get into this deal together. So make it memorable, make it stay around. You do need to use the email, the CCIB list syndication type platform, and social media, but the most important thing is be memorable. And the way you can do that is by sending it to them in physical form. Again, the CRM or the follow-up process is the one that works for you, that you use, that you find effective. There are a few. Follow-up Boss is really good for residential type listings, I would guess. HubSpot, again, Argus or any of the others. But important part is to make those notes like I was talking about with Jim. As Nick was saying earlier, be hesitant with taking voice notes during a call that's a transcription. His example was a really good one earlier. When it's multiple people, it's a little bit more widely accepted. If you and I are going to have a personal conversation, don't have it automatically start, or figure out how to turn it off well in advance, because it's not a good look when somebody's transcribing, because it reminds me that they're not paying attention and they're doing something else. Again, the Google Suite's always a good one. So this is the final slide, and what I'm showing here is how I use it and why it's been instrumental in my business. When I talk to somebody who's been doing it for a long time and they know all the formulas, they're very sophisticated, they know how to create notes, and they've been around the block a lot of times. And when I take the file that I have of all the formulas and I apply it to a deal and say, how do we get this done? And it comes out with the 10 ways to do this deal, and then I go back to them. Again, it's mind-blowing for people. And then it allows you to look into it a little bit further and say, oh, I don't know what this thing is. Maybe I'll need to learn a little bit more about it before I go back to my client and talk to him about it. But create a master file. Create something that is as you like to do business or around you, what your situation is, what you're trying to do, and then apply that to the deal. This is what I tell a lot of new brokers to do is, if you're looking for listings and you have all the info, you don't need to pay for CoStar yet. You're just starting out. I get it. Go to LoopNet and say, hey, I'm a new broker. How do I list this property? What should I do? What should I present? You can do that same thing as we're looking at Reonomy. Pick an address, pick an owner. Tell me all the motivations that you know about this owner, this ownership. How long have they owned this property? Do they have any debt on the property? So on and so forth. Tell me everything you know about this. It's out there. The information is out there already, publicly available. But the GPT or Claude or Grok or whichever platform you decide to use, it needs the input information and a little bit of direction. And as Mr. Hendricks was saying, it needs what is its motivation? What is your motivation, but what is its motivation when you're asking it a question? You're not just asking it for information. You're asking it for information with your lens or your client's lens or somebody you don't know, but a persona's lens. Have those lenses applied to the data and give you the best possible outcomes and see how it goes. Again, it's better to use and try than just say, well, my dad doesn't own a computer. He does what we do. He's awesome at it. But he doesn't own a computer, never has, doesn't own LinkedIn, but he does way too many deals to count. And the reason is because he's great at people and relationships. So there's a great element to that. But he just is a resolve not to do anything on technology or learn anything about how technology works. And I think there will be a time in the very near future where we start to just, a giant wave washes over and it gets scary for everybody because everybody else is using it. But the good thing about being fairly new or fairly nascent and in an industry that is typically full of Luddites, it's not readily embracing technology, is that you can be the leaders in technology and AI with just a few quick programs, and I've lined them out all in the spreadsheet again for you. So, is there any questions? I know this is a lot. I'm more than happy to answer any questions now or at cocktail hour.
Could you say just a little more about, you said creating your own private LLM?
Yeah. So on, this is the spreadsheet that I've created with about 20 different options for you, Chuck. Again, ChatGPT would be the first one that I would recommend, easiest to use, and you can port them over. Just as Ben was saying earlier, a lot of people are moving from GPT to Claude, for example, and then they might move to Gemini later. But you can just say to it at any point, I'm not going to pay for you anymore. Take all my data, put it into a file, and give it to me. And then bring it over to Claude and drop it into Claude. And when you're in GPT, say, get rid of all of the information you know about me. I don't want you to know anything more. And it'll get rid of all the information. I don't know whether it does or doesn't, Mr. Hendricks, I don't know. But in theory, it gets rid of all that information. So that's what I would recommend, ChatGPT or Claude. And it will start, every time you log into it, in other words, you put your email and your password in there, it becomes you. It remembers everything about you and builds a persona around you. So ChatGPT or Claude would be the best option to do that.
I use ChatGPT, we have the 365 edition.
Yes. Whatever works, again, whatever of those works out best, and the more you use it, the better it gets, but the better you get. But Nick Jr.'s insight was the best one I've continued to use, which is using a master prompt, which means that you're just telling it what you're trying to get out of it and who you are responding, like what's the persona that it should be fulfilling, and you'll get a lot out of that. I did want to bring up Ben just really quickly. I know this might put you on the spot a little bit, but he sent out an email to, I don't know, maybe just one person, but if not just one person, to several of his clients that said, hey, by the way, it was very much a humbling, hubris moment to say, look, guys, I am using technology to be a better investment advisor, capital raiser, syndicator. You should, if you're not already working with me, and he didn't say all this, but this is the context I get. If you're not already working with me, you should realize that I'm the new gen that's doing this. And the collective consciousness that exists and people have assembled already, it's available for you to use. And these were on, Chuck, for example, these were on GPT. They allow insight into the best minds on the planet. If you've seen the show Pluribus, it's all about collective consciousness. It's very scary, but it's saying that I think I'm pretty smart, but I definitely know that there are thousands of people out there that are smarter, and if you could take all of their stuff, put it together, and provide me with the answer, you can decide whether to use that answer or not, but at least you have that answer. So I have Ben's email in the chat there. If you can just tell a little bit more about sort of maybe the inspiration to do that. We don't need to go through each one or anything, but what was your thought process?
Yeah, it's a list that is kind of comprehensive. If you're someone that wants better decisions faster, check it out. And if you're not, then don't worry about it. And I don't know, I kind of feel like it's time to get into the deal making, like personally, it's like too cool.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna have Nick jump on. Yeah, maybe I don't have a great structure of how you want to do this, but I know Nick's got his colorful, multicolored coat on. You can tell us a little bit more about that. And
We've got to find a deal in that.
Tammy had some questions earlier, and maybe you could address these of how we should do this in this room. But the difference between just going around in a circle at a exchange meeting and what the power of the room can do, that would be really helpful for us to.
Yeah. So the jacket represents how many potential transactions there are whenever I go to an equity marketing meeting. So when you go to an SEC meeting and there's somewhere between 80
No, it's
and
good.
120 people in the room, and you have people that are looking to buy and sell, and that are creative in structuring transactions, the possibility